Welcome to the Nova Hoopcast. We're live here at Fairfax High School, home of the Rebels. We had a little delay due to the snow, but we're happy to be back talking basketball. Hey, earlier today we had a chance to sit down with Mike Barbee, head coach at Fairfax, so why don't we roll that tape now, Buster? Okay, welcome to the Nova Hoopcast. We're here at Fairfax High School, home of the Rebels. Mike Barbee, head coach. We're happy to be here. We had this scheduled a couple weeks ago. Snow interfered with that. Coach, when we originally had the interview scheduled, I think the Rebels were 13-1. Hit a little skid in district play. We knew district play would be tough. So you lost 3 in a row to Lake Braddock, who we've talked about a lot on this show, South County on a buzzer beater, and then Woodson the other night. What have you learned so far about your team in district play?
Yeah, I mean, snow weather obviously hasn't been too kind to us, but we knew going into the district it was going to be a tough stretch, and it wasn't been realistic to expect to go 9-1, 10-0 with how good the teams are. To me, it's the best district in the whole state. And honestly, with a younger team, these losses are good for us. They need a little pain to help jump to that next level. So I would have been more worried if we went all the way through winning all these games, how we do tournament time without a few losses.
Yeah, and as good as Braddock is, I'm not sure they'll go all the way through. They might use that for bulletin board material, but it's a good league. Kevin?
Well, you mentioned the youth of your team. I think it's very interesting for people out there to know that you have 10 juniors on your team, 5 of which who start. So while you are talented, you mentioned it, they maybe don't have the experiences that other teams have when they're playing seniors. Tell us a little bit about the makeup of your team and what it's like to coach so many underclassmen.
Yeah, it's a very interesting experience with having this many underclassmen, especially playing in major roles. Kind of some of the things we've learned is even though they play a lot of minutes, there's still a lot of new situations they haven't been in, new roles from last year. Probably the biggest thing is leadership. It's kind of been a shared leadership experience on our team. We've got 1 senior captain, 2 underclassmen, but none of them have really been in that role before of I got to be the one who lifts my teammates up, make sure we're always on the same page if we're doing our jobs, and that's the area where we're still probably growing the most. Right.
Coach, one of the things Kevin and I have talked about a lot on this show and over the years is the difference between conference play and non-conference play and how scoring tends to go down a little bit and shots are harder to come by. And I know Fairfax has experienced that. I don't think it's a shock, but can you talk a little bit about the difference between your conference play and what you see in conference?
And the biggest thing is the scouting. You might scout some in the offseason, the non-district, see them once, maybe watch one film, do a little stuff, but you're focusing more on getting your team ready. When you get to district play, you know the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th man on his team, you know what everyone wants to do, you know all their plays. Right. So just everything becomes more difficult. You really not only have to be more crisp, but you have to come up with new inventive ways to do things because everyone knows what you're going to do.
Right. Yeah, I think Fairfax is certainly experiencing that now, as are many other teams. Hey, changing gears a little bit, we've had a couple weeks to prepare for this interview. Kevin and I are known as hard-hitting journalists, so we've done some research for the last couple weeks to come up with some questions, I think, Kevin.
Let's go back in time here a little bit. For those people who don't know too much about you, you graduated from Woodson High School. You were a player there, in fact, when Brian and I were coaching. So I'm asking you, what was the scouting report on young Mike Barbee when he was a player at Woodson High School playing back in the day?
Probably 3-point shooter, had a lot of legal screens. To get Chuck Spiridopoulos open. Sometimes played defense, sometimes didn't. Rocked the headband in the high socks.
Headband and high socks.
So the truth is out that Mike Flugerath, you actually did drills on a daily basis of how to set illegal screens.
I cannot confirm or deny.
Kevin, you got another one?
Oh, sure. Let's go into something I've been wondering driving through the city of Fairfax today. Where's the best place to eat?
Oh, definitely Artie's. Artie's right down the street. Great American Restaurants.
Great American Restaurants.
Fabulous spot.
Okay. Good post-it. Oh, what's going on back here?
Oh,
whoa! The Fairfax mascot.
Oh, welcome, the lion. The lion's in here.
Well, that was unexpected.
That was.
I don't know where to go from there.
The Rebels here, and their mascot is a lion, so pretty cool to see the lion make an appearance. Officer Seinfeld, what do you choose?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm a old school, so I'd say Seinfeld.
Seinfeld.
Both good choices, though. Can't go wrong there.
Best moment as a coach here at Fairfax?
Best moment as a coach. Probably the very first year being here, us make it to the region Final Four. I always kind of thought that's a big deal making that far. And especially that group because we started so poorly and to finish strong. And those kids every year is different buy-in. That group really had to buy in because I was asking so much different from them than they've experienced in the past.
Kevin, I've got one.
Okay.
In the coaching profession, like many other professions, a lot of us have mentors when we're young coaches. Can you think of more than one? I think I know who one is, but who are some people that have been mentors to you in your coaching career?
Yeah, it starts off with my father, who coaches here as my freshman coach. I played for him growing up. I worked from a lot of my basketball philosophy has come from playing for him. Mike Pflugrath, who I played for at Woodson, really learned about being organized, structure, and all that stuff from him. And working with Doug Craig over at Woodson, who a ton of success, and he really kind of let me do my own thing and run a JV team more like a varsity program, which really got me ready to do this job.
I don't have any more questions, but any shout-outs you want to give out there? Any players, any coaches, any fans of the program out there you want to give a shout-out to?
We'll definitely shout out Al Pearson, the #1 fan
Al Pearson, yeah.
of the Hoopcast, and shout out Jerry Lynn. We need more of him on the show. More Jerry, more tiny hats.
Good answer. Good answer.
Mike Barbee, coach of the Fairfax Rebels, currently 13-4, having a really nice season in the heat of conference play right now. Thanks for letting us come over here and interview you. Sorry about the delay to the weather, but it's always good to talk to you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Okay, great stuff from Mike Barbee. Again, like we talked about earlier, it's district play is a different animal than non-district play, and I think Fairfax is going through that as a lot of teams are. So that was a great interview. A surprise guest there during the interview.
Yeah.
Who was that? The Fairfax
We don't know.
mascot?
We don't know, but it was fun to have them involved, and maybe they'll come back.
We'll have to do some investigative reporting on
That's
that.
right.
Kevin, I know we have some milestones around the area recently.
We do. We want to send congratulations to a couple senior guards in our area who hit a milestone by scoring 1,000 points. First is Cam Savage from South Lakes, having a great career, moving on to Barton College next year. Next is Chandler Tootin from Tuscarora High School out in Leesburg, hit his milestone recently, as did Max Ashton from George Mason High School here in Falls Church City. And then last but not least, the exciting guard out of Centerville, Bryce Douglas, getting his 1,000 points. So a big deal for those kids. Just want to make sure that that's recognized, and big accomplishment for all of them.
Yeah, all good players. I've had a chance to see 3 of them play. I haven't seen Max Ashton play, but I've seen all 3 of the other guys play. And I think they're more than just scorers. I think Bryce Douglas kind of made his name as a scorer, but I think he's expanded his game a little bit. And I saw Cam Savage when Fairfax played against him. He did a nice job defensively as well. And I saw Chandler Tootin earlier in the Red Jenkins class, and was impressed with his all-around game.
I have seen Max Ashton play for George Mason. It's tough to see them play a lot because outside of the non-district games they play so far away. But very solid player for the Mustangs the last couple of years. So congratulations to them. Let's switch gears a little bit and move into district play. Brian, I'd like to give you an update on how teams are doing, who's leading each district, and then get your thoughts and analysis on what you've seen so far this year. Because, again, we've moved to the second part of the season. Some people call it the third part. You've got the non-district, then you've got Christmas, then you have district, then you have the playoffs. So, and the third stage, as you will, of the season. So let's start off with 6A in the Liberty District. You have McLean leading 4-0. They've lost no games. South Lakes is 3-1, so those are the top 2 teams right now. Concord, you've got Centerville at 3-0. I think they've won 9 games in a row, playing real well out there in Centerville. Oakton 3-1. The Gunston District, West Potomac, no surprise there, 2-0. TC Williams also 2-0, a team we haven't talked about a lot, but starting the district playoff well. In the Patriot District, you have South County, who's 4-1. Braddock, always dangerous at 4-0. Cedar Run, Patriot, Osborne is really what we've talked about all year. They're leading Patriots 3-0, Osborne's 2-1. And then last but not least, in 6A, you have the Cardinal District, Potomac doing what they always do, winning that conference right now at 5-0, and a surprising 4-2 Forest Park right behind them. So look at that 6A bracket and tell me what you see.
Well, a couple things. It's still early, but I think we're starting to see a little bit of separation. We talked about that last time. I think it's really still very challenging to go undefeated in your league. In our interview earlier with Mike Barbee, he talked about kind of the scouting that goes on, the preparation that goes on. But having said that, there's some undefeated teams out there. Good for McLean, 4-0. Centerville at 3-0. In fact, you mentioned Centerville's won 9 straight. Their last loss was to McLean. I think the other interesting thing is, like West Po and TC, they're both undefeated, but they've only played 2 conference games. And the snow has had something to do with that, but also just district makeups and schedules have had something to do with that, as opposed to some of the leagues we'll talk about here in a minute where they've played a lot more games. Patriot and Osborne, looks to be a 2-horse battle, I think, in that league. It's always a good league. We've talked about, plenty of times in the past. And Potomac doing what they do. But again, I think in any of those leagues, I don't know that any of those teams that's at the top right now is going to go through without a loss. And maybe one of them will prove me wrong. But I think it's just too competitive in this area and too many good coaches to go through your whole district schedule.
And it's hard being consistent. You've got to bring it every night. You've got to get 16, 17-year-old young men excited about playing away on a cold, snowy night away from home. Then you have another team who's probably, excited about the opportunity to play one of these top teams to knock them off. So we'll definitely see how things turn out in the second half of district play. Moving on into 5A, we'll start with the Potomac District in Loudon. You have Potomac Falls. We met with Coach Halls last week in the Panther Pit. They are 8-0. You mentioned some teams have only played a couple games. Pot Falls has played 8 district games, and they haven't lost yet. Right behind them is Freedom South Riding at 5-3 and Briar Woods at 5-2. The other 5A district in our area is the National, being led by Marshall High School. They're currently 6-0. Right behind them is Wakefield, who's 6-1. So that's kind of the battle that we've seen the last couple of years. In the National District, Marshall versus Wakefield. So we'll see how that turns out. I wouldn't put anything past Tony Bentley. I know Marshall's got a great team and a great player, Dan Lever, but Wakefield always, plays in the postseason. Last but not least, in the 4A Dulles, you have Valley doing what they've done for the last couple of years, undefeated 4-0, and then right behind them, Dominion. So some good teams, some usual suspects. We'll see how it pans out for some of these teams that are contending. Any thoughts on those conferences?
Well, Potomac Falls has had some close games, and that's one of the leagues we talked about earlier. We thought, actually, I think both those leagues, we were wondering who was going to come out of those leagues. Clearly Potomac Falls is a class of their league, of the Potomac, but, they're not unbeatable. Marshall, Wakefield, like you said, same story, different year, it seems like, with those two teams. And, it might come down to, can they contain Daniel Lever? He seems to be, I think, a player of the year type player, type talent, and can you contain him? He's had some monster games where not just double-doubles, but, 20-something points and 15 rebounds, that sort of thing. So can you contain him? But, again, this is not Tony Bentley's first rodeo. He's been there before. And then in the Dulles, again, I think that's one we definitely talked about earlier this year about who would come out of that. And I think Valley is maybe riding their tradition a little bit. The expectation that they'll win, and we've talked about that a lot over the years, is how much value you put on that, on just having that winning tradition. I think Valley is benefiting from that. But again, I would be surprised if they don't take a loss at some point in time. And again, that's no knock on Valley or their players or coaches or anything. I just think there's a lot of parity out there, so it'll be very interesting. And again, I think things change. Talking about the difference between district play and non-district play, I think the second time through in district play, you've already got a full game of tape and experience of playing a team, so sometimes the second time through is even tougher than the first time.
Well, let me ask you maybe about some teams we haven't talked about, teams that are kind of lurking, not in first or second place, but are teams maybe in third, fourth, fifth, who are still very good teams, and you mentioned the parity. They've been close, but maybe they figure things out. who are some teams in the area you think might be able to get it done that we really haven't talked a whole lot about?
Well, it's hard to narrow it down. Let's mention Madison, the Warhawks. They've had a really successful run under Kevin Roller. 1 and 2 in the district, but they've got wins over Marshall, South Lakes, McLean, and Osborne, all quality teams. So they've demonstrated by that they can beat good teams.
But I would add, you don't know who they're going to beat, but you also don't know who they're going to lose to.
True. I think they've had some really good wins, and I think they've had some disappointing losses. But I'll tell you what, we all know Kevin Roller does a really good job with the X's and O's, and his kids always play really hard. So, if you've got good strategy and you've got really good effort from your kids, that's a pretty good foundation.
And I know he's watching tape for the second time around, and
right.
I wouldn't want to play him in that first round of district.
Right. I think Woodson at Fairfax, we lost to them the other night. And again, they've got great tradition. They're 3-2 in our district. But again, they're winners. They have a tradition of winning. They've got wins over South Lakes, Wakefield. They played a tough schedule. Lost to St. John's. So they've been exposed to that. They play,
Mike always does that.
Yeah.
I'm not Mike. Doug
right.
Craig. Doug Craig always schedules hard teams, and
right.
you got to give him credit for it. It means he might not always have the best record going into district play because he's playing such tough non-district teams, but I think they have as much talent as anyone in that district can end up winning.
Right. Moving to Prince William, Stonewall Jackson's 1-1 in their league. We always talk about Patriot and Osborne, and in Prince William we talk about Potomac as well. But Stonewall's got talent, and they've got a nice win over Woodson. They've got some good players. So they're always one. I may have mentioned on one of our previous episodes, like if I drew them in a first-round district tournament game or something like that, I'd be concerned. That would be the type of game that would keep you up at night as a coach.
I think that's what this list is. Who would you hate
right.
to play
yeah.
in the first round of districts? And I think Stonewall is definitely one of those teams. I'll add also in Prince William, Osborne Park. They beat Battlefield. I don't think they've ever beaten Battlefield before. They're 1-2 in the district. And we know that Patriot's good. We know that Osborne's good, but on a given night, they've got a great scorer, Ethan Wilson. They've got an athletic wing players. They've got a good young coach. They're buying in. They would be very dangerous to play in that first round.
Yeah, their win over Battlefield is one that they can really build off of and probably does wonders for their coach, rebuilding that program. They've been down for so long. To beat a quality opponent like that is a really nice win for them. Kevin Stonebridge.
Stonebridge is such an enigma. I mean, they have talent. They've got a Division I point guard, Evan Buckley. He had 35 the other night when they beat Rockridge. But I've talked to enough coaches to hear from them that they never are out of it because they shoot the three ball.
Right.
And you just never know. They'll keep shooting. And if they're hot, they're very dangerous. And I think they're 6-10 maybe. And in the district, they're 3-5, but they can beat anybody. And they've got the talent. So that, again, another team I don't want to see on my schedule come playoff time.
Kevin, there's one more team you mentioned in your list of teams lurking in the area.
And I'll talk about them since
right.
you're a coach. That's Fairfax High School. We know they started off the season strong. They've had a couple losses here, but again, if their shooting gets back on track, which I know it can, they're going to be very hard to beat as well. So don't count out Fairfax. Coach Barbee said it. It's an awesome district. They have a lot of talent, so they're still in the mix, and they'll definitely compete come playoff time.
So in most of these leagues, we're about through the first round of district play, getting ready to start the second round. So we'll see if the teams that are top can stay there, or if there's going to be some teams gunning for them here in the second half of district play. Okay, we're active on social media. Kevin, you're kind of our social media director. We put another survey out, and I think we knew this would get a pretty good response. Tell us.
It's a hot topic right now. It's the shot clock. Should we have one in high school basketball? And I put out the survey for a couple days, not too long, maybe 3-4 days, and we had almost 270 people vote. Out of that 270, the obvious choice was that we should. 87% of the people said, yes, we need a shot clock in high school basketball. 13% said no. I know I have my opinions. I know we had a lot of people comment. What are your thoughts, Brian, about having a shot clock?
Well, let's talk about some of the comments we received online. A lot of people said it would make the game more interesting, less stall ball. And maybe I'll give my take on that. Like, I can't remember the last team I saw a stall ball game. I mean, there was one that I think went viral on social media recently that the proponents of shot clock put on there where you have two teams just standing, holding the ball, staring at each other. Like, I haven't seen that in this area for quite a while. I'm sure it's happened.
I think it happens, and I haven't seen it for a while as well. I see people running their offense,
Right.
being very patient on offense.
True.
So maybe that's what people think is stalling, or they just don't like that style of it. And let's be honest, it's not always fun to watch, but I'll see people, hold for a shot at the end of a quarter, which
Sure.
is part of basketball, but I don't think it's a huge problem. I just don't think they like watching people run their offense over and over.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I'm a basketball guy. It's not boring to watch a team run their offense for 45 seconds or a minute. I don't mind that. But some people do, I guess. Other comments would help teams value possessions over time. Stalling is rare. Here's one that get a reaction from me. Not helping kids who want to play at the next level. Need to learn how to make decisions. Again, the percentage of kids that play in college is so small that I don't buy that as an argument for having a clock, because it's such a small percentage of kids that will go on and play in college. I don't think that's a valid argument, and I think
it is for a selective few.
For a select few.
Right, I agree.
So now here's one, and you're an athletic administrator. The logistics, the cost of a clock and a clock operator. I know that's an issue at some schools and not in other schools. What are your thoughts about
it's
that?
not. I wouldn't say it would be a problem here in Northern Virginia. I would think that even at the lowest income schools in our areas, it would happen. Because those counties have money. But take that through the course of the state of Virginia. We are isolated here in Northern Virginia. We talk about this should be our own state because we are different than the rest of the state. Go somewhere between here and Richmond. Go somewhere between Richmond and Roanoke, or between Richmond and the beach. You're talking about very rural areas who have a hard time paying for things. They have athletic directors that I've met that also teach PE
Right.
and do assistant principal duties.
Yeah.
So they struggle. We are kind of, I think, a little bit of a la-la land in terms of resources. So paying to put a shot clock up in the state, I think it happened in a lot of places, but it would be a struggle. You're also going to have to pay someone else to do it. And here's a point that we talked about. Who's going to do it, and do they know how to do it?
Right, yeah, and my thought, and probably most high school coaches around here have experienced this, just getting somebody to keep the regular clock. Sometimes you'll pay an official to do that. Sometimes you have a teacher in your building or a parent who keeps the clock. And I see a lot of clock issues in high school basketball.
Well,
just keeping the regular clock.
We have a mutual friend of ours who's a Division I official, and he'll tell you that early on in the season, even at a high level in college, they struggle to know how to do the 30-second clock.
Right.
So I think, obviously, there'll be growing pains, but on an average night, I know as an administrator, I'm struggling. Who's doing the clock? Sometimes it's a JV manager, and they've never done it before. Sometimes I've had to jump on the clock and do it. So you're adding another layer to it, and it's change, and people in this state don't always like change.
Yeah, I can see teams are warming up, and then the freshman coach or the assistant who was in charge of finding somebody to do the shot clock, you drop the ball and you're scrambling, pulling somebody out of the bleachers, kind of like in youth league or AAU, you get somebody to keep the book. You're pulling somebody out of the bleachers to do the shot clock and giving them a quick lesson on how to do it. Here's a couple other things that I would say. One, from a strategical standpoint, I think a lot of times when you watch shot clock, a lot of people make comments on Twitter about the level of coaching that's involved or not involved based on the shot clock. I see so many teams just go to a high screen and roll at the end of a shot clock. I'd like to see coaches get more creative. I don't think that's great coaching. And we also had a comment about people talking about moving 10 seconds in the backcourt to 8 seconds. And I would also say this, and then I'll see if you have any final thoughts. If you watch teams that just race up and down the court constantly, and there's some teams in this area that do that, and they shoot within the first 5 seconds, and they shoot a lot of threes, I don't necessarily find that entertaining to watch for 32 minutes. It might be entertaining to watch for a quarter, but just the idea that playing at a breakneck pace is necessarily more entertaining, I don't buy that. Now, maybe the average basketball fan does think that's more entertaining.
You make a very good point. Last point I'll make is, as a former coach who had some teams that weren't very good, we had to play at a certain style to be competitive. I think if you have a shot clock, you can take that away. You're going to see the teams who have and have-nots. And I know that Lake Braddock has talent this year, but I think in the last couple of years when they didn't have as much talent, they used being up and down the floor as who they were to try to get an advantage. And I think slowing the game down, taking your time on each possession, even maybe even holding the ball late. I'm not talking about staying at half court. I'm talking about running that clock to get the best shot possible. Evens things out between you have a team that's very, very good and a team that's not very good. And in college, you recruit and there is more parity. But in high school, sometimes you're dealing with the talent you've been given, and there's not a whole lot. Putting that shot clock in would take the advantage of the lesser talented teams away. So
we could probably keep talking about this one for a while, and I'm sure we could get plenty more comments, judging by the quick response to our Twitter poll. So there's some thoughts on shot clock. Kevin, changing gears a little bit, we have a special announcement to make.
Right. Special announcement. I'm wearing my Nova Challenge T-shirt. We're happy to announce that the Nova Challenge will be here at Fairfax High School on Saturday, March 16th. Maybe Ryan can tell us a little bit about the Nova Challenge.
Yeah, this will be our 5th year, right?
I think it's 6th.
6th year. Yeah. Time flies. So it's an all-star game featuring teams from Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, Arlington, Alexandria areas. 2 games. We got a 3-point contest, a dunk contest. And what's really cool is that every year we send the proceeds to a charity right in the community that's hosting the game. We've raised over $10,000 over the years. We've supported Friends of Wounded Warriors, Loudoun Abused Women's Shelter, Best Buddies last year. So we're working closely with Fairfax High School to identify a charity right here in the Fairfax community. Certainly want to thank Mike Barbee, Nancy Melnick, the athletic director, Aaron Lennart, principal here, for their support. So we're looking forward to putting things in place. We got a great crew that's worked with us over the years to make this a really good event. And so we're putting it in ink now.
Yeah.
Saturday, March 16th.
It's exciting, and it's something we look forward to every year. I think the purpose of us doing this is to highlight the players we have in Northern Virginia. We talk about them on the podcast. Now we want people to come see them play against each other. Sometimes there's a little rivalry. Most times it's a lot of fun. Right. But we're going to start promoting that a lot and trying to get people out here and some sponsorship. If you're interested in sponsoring the game, by all means, contact us. But it is going to be here at Fairfax. It's a central location. Over the years, we've played counties against each other. I do have the schedule that we're going to go with right now. We're going to have Loudoun playing Fairfax, which is years ago where we started.
Right.
That was the first 2 years, Loudoun versus Fairfax. And after that game, we'll have a 3-point and dunk contest. And then the second game of the day will be at 5 o'clock. Roughly, we're not 100% sure on the times, but that will definitely be against Prince William versus a team from Arlington, Alexandria. So the matchups have been set. Look for our website. It's under construction right now because we're updating things. But look for www.novachallenge.com to be up and running here in the next day or so. And you can get information on the current game and see how people have done it in the past.
Yeah, it's really a fun event. We've had a great response from players and coaches over the years. We've gotten just about everybody, knock on wood, from the area to play in the game. And as basketball junkies, we have to do some work to get the game set up. But if everything goes well, we get to sit down and watch 2 games with the best high school basketball players in the area. So it's really a lot of fun. So we're excited. And we'll talk more about that in future episodes.
Definitely.
So
one thing I wanted to add, I mentioned the Nova Challenge website. I also wanted to announce that we have our own NOVAHOOPAST website. If you go to www.novahoopcast.com, we have that website up and running. You guys check out not only the current video that we have, but we started as a true podcast.
Right.
And we have all our old podcasts on there. We also have some information about us and Buster and kind of who we are and our background. So just another level to what we're doing here. And from now on, you'll be able to see all our videos on that website.
Yeah, and we'll talk about other content we can put on there. We can probably put a link to our Twitter on there and do some polls.
Yeah.
I think there's obviously a lot of potential.
So we're excited about
more
that
information on the website. So again, great episode. Glad we're back after the snow. Hopefully we won't have any more postponements. I know it plays havoc with basketball coacher schedules when you have to play 3 and 4 games in a week. So hopefully the weather will cooperate. We all like snow days, but we like basketball as well. So thanks to Mike Barbee for letting us film.
Thanks
here.
to Buster.
Thanks to Buster. And thanks to the Fairfax mascot. Once again, we'll try to figure out.
Yeah, I've got out of his gate.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.